meeting to order. We good, Trish? Okay. Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, on March 29, 2023, Governor Maura Healey signed into law an act appropriations for fiscal year 2023 to provide for supplemental certain existing appropriations and for certain other activities and projects. This act includes extensions until March 31st, 2025 of the remote meeting provisions. The August 19th, 2024 Select Board meeting will be conducted via remote participation by the board. I grant permission to Westwood Media Center to record the meeting and to anyone else who wishes to record the meeting. And with that, I will get started on the chair's update. First thing is Hazardous Waste Day, September 14th. This will take place at 50 Carvey Street, the Public Works Department yard there. From 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. It's $10 per car, cash or check. There's a whole list of things that you can bring and things that will not be accepted on the web page. And I strongly recommend that this is a great endeavor, and I salute those who get this project off the ground. What will be accepted? Oil paints, strippers, paint thinners. See the website for everything. And the second thing is Westwood Day, which is always a fun event. This will take place starting Friday night, September 20th, the high school football game with fireworks. Westwood Day festivities kick off on Friday the 20th on the Charles Flay High Field with Westwood High School football game and fireworks to follow the game. On Saturday, it starts with at 9 a.m. a 5K run, at 10 a.m. a fun run, and then from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. we have vendor village in the back of the high school, and there's lots of things to see, lots of entertainment, and lots of great food. They are still looking for volunteers to sign up in 2.5 to 3.5 hour shifts. All volunteers receive an event T-shirt. Please sign up at www.westwoodday.org. That's also on the web page. And the last thing under the chair's update is West Nile virus. It's summertime. It's at the end of summer, which is when we see this pop up. On July 3rd, Mass DPH announced that West Nile virus had been detected in mosquitoes collected from Westwood. The information was posted on social media and on the town's website. On August 6th, the Mass Department of Public Health announced the first human case of West Nile virus. We've also had a human case of EEE and the first animal case of EEE in the state this year. These are very significant illnesses. The first was exposed in Hampton County, Springfield, Mass, and the EEE was diagnosed in a horse exposed in Plymouth, Mass. Please be on the alert for this virus. There are some simple steps that can be taken, some important steps that should be taken. Especially residents should take care of precautions to protect themselves from mosquito bites. Avoid mosquito bites by using an insect repellent that contains DEET. Limit your outdoor activity at dusk and at dawn. And if you do have to go out, then I would strongly recommend, and our DPH folks and our Westwood Board of Health recommend wearing long pants and long shirts whenever possible. Consider rescheduling activities. Areas known to have mosquito bite population, try to avoid those. And probably the most important thing is removing freestanding water around your yard and home. Sometimes you don't realize that you might have an empty pail, an empty bucket, an old tire or something like that that collects water. The mosquitoes just love to breed in those. Mosquito control is available upon request. Please visit the district's website. That's the Norfolk County Mosquito Control, 781-762-3681. If you have any questions about mosquitoes in our area, or would like to report standing water, please call the Health Department at 781-320-1026. Rob, Marion, do you guys have anything else to add to that?
I do not.
No,
Okay,
sir.
all right. Chris, I think it's up to you for your report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I have one thing, and the chair has asked us to look into an additional opportunity to provide residents with the ability of disposing of their grass clippings and any yard waste they may have, brush, excuse me. We looked into our contract to find if we could do an additional pickup. The additional pickup would cost approximately $20,000. So the DPW director led the way trying to find other options. So the one option that we were able to come up with our vendor was to have a container dropped off at the DPW, and then residents could bring their yard waste to the DPW to dispose of it for those who would like to take advantage of that opportunity. We are waiting to hear back from our vendor regarding when the container would be available. This is roughly around $1,000 a week, and so we're looking at maybe between 2 and 3 weeks. It will give us an opportunity to see how many residents would like to dispose of their grass clippings in the summer. Our curbside collection will begin the week of September 16th, so this is an opportunity for roughly 2 to 3 weeks. We are targeting around August 28th is when we're expecting the container, but our DPW director has been in contact with our vendor, and our vendor is looking to see if there's anything that they can do where they can provide us with that container earlier. We will be providing some information to the community via the website and social media of this opportunity once we know what the date is of that container being delivered. But I do think this is a nice opportunity for residents who are interested in disposing of their grass clippings and yard waste prior to the curbside collection. So again, this would be a drop-off. This would be at the DPW, and we'll be providing more information via social media and the website.
Thank you, Chris. And I know you and Todd have been working on this, and it sounded to me like you had this nailed down a few weeks ago, but unfortunately, things didn't pan out as planned. But thank you so much for your efforts on that. Thank Todd as well for me.
Certainly will.
Yeah, Todd. I'm sorry, Chris. Anything else on that? From your update?
No, I'm sorry. That's all I have for the update. Thank you.
It was an excellent update. No, that's good. That's good. Next, we have our.
Before you leave that, just one quick question for Chris.
Yeah.
Chris, would there be, if we're doing this, are there any restrictions of any type on what can be dropped at this bin? Are there, I imagine small sticks are fine. Is there a size of which a branch over a certain size is a problem? I'm just curious.
I will certainly, I don't know if Todd is on, but I would presume we'd have the same restrictions that we do for the curbside, but I would speak with Mr. Korchin if there's anything different from that.
Thank you.
Good question. Thanks, Rob. All right. Next thing, we have our Interfaith Mini Walk for Hunger. Great cause, 10/27/24. Just a little bit of background on this. 2024 Interfaith Mini Walk for Hunger begins at Temple Beth David, 7 Clabber-Tree Street on Sunday, October 27th, starting at 2 p.m. and ending at approximately 5 p.m. Members and friends of multiple faith organizations will participate in the walk. The walk is a 3-mile-long walk, is open to everyone. Chris and I have always enjoyed it. The proposed route is for the walk to go down Pond Street, onto Oak Street, Sycamore, Alder, Fensview, Martha Jones neighborhood. The route will be reviewed by the public safety for need of police details. In addition, the committee will review the food donations with the health department for the need for necessary permits. All walkers will be on the sidewalks. A copy of the route is enclosed. Families are encouraged to participate. And I believe we have someone here from Temple Beth. Is it Gail? It is. Gail, is there anything else you'd like to say about this great walk?
No, that's it. I just appreciate the support from the town, obviously, and we hope to get a lot of participation.
Excellent. Rob, Marianne, any questions on this?
Just thanks for doing this yet again.
Gail, you have our approval for this. I don't think we need to take a vote on that. So wishing you the best and wishing you all and all the walkers a very, very sunny day. And thank you
Thank
for all
you.
your hard work on this.
Mr. Chairman, I believe you do have to take a vote. You have to approve the route
All
contingent upon final approval from public safety and the health departments.
Anyone want to make a motion, Rob? I'm sorry, Mary Ann.
I move that the select board approve the Interfaith Mini Walk for Hunger for Sunday, October 27, 2024, to start at Temple Beth David at 2 p.m. and proceed on a 3-mile walk via the proposed route, contingent upon final approvals from the public safety and the health departments.
I would second that motion.
Roll call, Mary Ann.
Aye.
Rob,
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Gail, you have our official blessing.
Thank you very much. Have a
Have
good
a-
evening, everybody.
Hope you get great weather.
So.
Chris, I see Todd has joined us. Is there any follow-up to Rob's question for Rob, for Todd?
No, it's a great question, and I believe there is a specific answer that I'll find out. I want to say it's a maximum caliper size that they go off of with respect to the brush that you can dispose of, but I'll find that out, Rob. And once this is all advertised, we'll make sure it's loud and clear what can and cannot be.
That's great. Thank you.
Thanks, Todd. Appreciate it. All right, next on our agenda is Cino Westwood LLC doing business as Cino 569 High Street, request for extension of exercise of license date. I believe we have Nora, Gary Morrison, the regional manager, Ken Cousin, Director of Business Development, Newport Restaurant Group. Nora, I'm going to assume you're going to take this away.
Sure, I'd be happy to.
Thank
So
you.
as I'm sure you recall, Cino was before the select board in, I believe it was October of 2023 to obtain its initial Section 12 all alcohol license. That was extended then in December to a new license for 2024. And the period of time to exercise that license ran through early February. In February, Cino requested an extension, which the board granted until the end of August. And there were certain stipulations on that extension, including the need to apply for a demolition permit before, I believe it was April 15th. They did that, and they are in the process of renovating the building. And they're back before you tonight to ask for a further extension. The request is to allow them to have until the beginning of November to actually take advantage of the alcohol license that you've already approved. So the previous extension granted in February went through August, and now they're asking for a further extension through November 1st. And Ken is here to explain the process. They're diligently working on the building and moving along well.
Ken, go, please.
Yes, thank you, Nora. Thank you, Mr. Chair. We had several delays, but we're anxiously getting closer to opening. Our contractors have done quite well and kind of getting us caught up. We've received some of our first rough inspections, plumbing and gas piping, and we hope to proceed pretty quickly. I'm actually hoping that we'll be able to be getting our CO sometime in October, but we asked for early November just to make sure that, you know, we don't have to come in front of the board again for another extension. And Nora, I don't know if this would be something that we should bring up at this point, but there was a lot of concern about the color that the building was painted. It was pretty vivid yellow, and we submitted some changes, and actually the painting has been redone. We reduced the amount of the yellow to basically the doors and the window trim, and the rest of the building is a gray and a darker charcoal.
And just to explain a little further, when it went to the planning board, the renderings did include the color that was actually painted in number form, gave a paint chip number, but the rendering actually looked like it was a less intense yellow. So when the planning board approved it, they approved it based on the appearance of the renderings, not necessarily on the paint chip. But now Ken has submitted a request for administrative approval to the new color scheme. If you've been by and seen it, I think it looks terrific. I think that it allows Barcino's to still have its product color, and it looks very fitting.
I appreciate your raising that, Ken, and I appreciate that you want to be a vibrant part of our community, and we're all anxiously awaiting your opening.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
And then just one more thing I want to point out, they do need to go back to the planning board for a modification to increase the number of seats. So the number of seats that you grant an alcohol license for is the maximum number of seats that can fit in the facility. I believe it's 122. When the planning board granted approval, they granted it for the same number of seats that Kiara had on its alcohol license, which I believe was 98. I think there were 84 inside and 14 outside. So the planning board approved it at that number, and Ken is coming back to the planning board for a modification, and he's working with the abutting property owner on a shared parking arrangement, which the planning board indicated that they would be happy to approve as long as they just work out that they have the ability to park cars elsewhere to serve their customers, because for the increasing the number of seats, there's an increase of 1 parking space for every 4 seats that you increase.
Yes, and I've actually made contact with our neighbor, and just working on a letter of agreement that can be submitted to the planning board for actually this Thursday, which will get us on the agenda for the September 24th meeting.
Thank you, Nora. Thank you, Ken. Rob, do you have any thoughts, comments, questions?
No, I was by there this morning, thought the exterior looks great, and I second Mary Ann's comment of we're really looking forward to having you guys opening your doors and serving the community.
Terrific. Ken, if I had a nickel for every time I came back from the paint store with the paint chip and then laid the paint down and realized that my eyes aren't as good as they used to be, I would have retired 10 years sooner. So I understand completely. And Nora, that was a great explanation. Thank you. Any questions before I open up to the public? Tish, do we have anything in the queue?
Do not. No questions.
Okay. Would anyone like to make a motion?
I would. I move that the select board grant a second extension to the exercise of license date requirement in the rules and regulations governing alcoholic beverages for Bar Cino Westwood LLC DBA Bar Cino to November 1, 2024 with the following conditions. Number 1, that the applicant obtains a certificate of occupancy for Bar Cino on or before November 1, 2024. If the applicant determines that obtaining a certificate of occupancy by November 1, 2024 is not attainable before the date of the exercise of license extension date expires, the applicant must return to the board for a status update and an additional extension request. And number 2, the applicant must obtain a reduced parking special permit approval from the planning board pursuant to Westwood zoning bylaw section 6.1.9 at the September 24, 2024 planning board meeting.
Before I second that motion, should we advise Ken as to what our October meeting schedule is? Because I would think our ability to grant any further extension is going to be driven by our calendar of meeting.
I think we have 2 in October. Is that right, Tish?
No, you have 1 in October on October 21st. You have a meeting on September 30th and then October 21st.
Thank you, Tish. Are you Did you write that down, Ken, in case you need to address this sooner?
Yes, thank you. I appreciate getting that date. Hopefully we won't need it.
Excellent.
Okay,
Anything else? Anything else, Rob?
then I would approve the motion as made. I mean, I would second the approach,
Yep.
motion as
Okay.
made, sorry.
Yep. No problem. Roll call. Mary Ann,
Aye.
Rob,
Aye,
and I vote aye as well. Nora, Ken, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your help and your support.
Nora, you here? Okay. Next is Islington Center redevelopment traffic signal timing study update. This is a follow-up from back on June 21st when Bayside Engineering was before us. Ken Cram. Is Ken here this evening, Tish?
Yes, he
Excellent.
just joined this Bradman.
Okay. Nora, would you like to start this while Ken's linking up, or can you?
Sure. I'd be happy to get started. So as you know, this all stems from the 2018 special permit for the Islington Center redevelopment project. When the planning board approved that special permit, there was a condition that allowed the select board to determine after the project was complete whether or not there would need to be changes to the signalization at the intersection of Washington Street, East Street, and School Street. And after several discussions and traffic studies and restudies, it was determined by this board that there were changes that were required, and they ordered the developer to swap out the existing signals on that intersection so that there is now a left turn signal for southbound Route 1 turning onto East Street, and that there would no longer be a left turn signal from northbound Route 1 turning onto School Street. So the developer and his engineer let you know that there were some concerns about the traffic that would support the new heavier signal fixture and whether or not that could accommodate it, and that they would need to do some engineering to research the suitability of that arm and the foundation. So Ken has prepared he's prepared a plan for a boring that would have to be taken to check on that. So why don't I let Ken take it from here and explain what needs to be done.
Thank you, Nora. Yes, we've done several things actually getting ready to do the actual design. The first thing we did was we went out there and we resurveyed the southwest corner of the intersection where the new mast arm will have to go adjacent to the existing mast arm. Unfortunately, we researched through Mass DOT, and we actually found the original set of plans, but the original set of plans did not have any of the original boring data that would have been gathered at that time. And we're going back approximately 20, 25 years here to tell us what the soil types are underneath the ground, because we need to know that information in order to design the foundation for the new mast arm. We expect we might be able to reuse some of the existing equipment in terms of the mast arm pole itself, maybe, and possibly the mast arm itself. However, we haven't gotten that far into the design, but either the existing mast arm will work, or we'll have to get a new mast arm that might have to be about 5 feet longer. So having said that, we did this survey and created the base plan, which has been submitted. And on the second plan of that sheet is a plan for the boring contractor to tell him where to drill the hole. It's approximately 4 feet, give or take, from the existing center of the existing mast arm to the northwest, but in the same general area. The boring is actually scheduled for the 28th, which is a week from this Wednesday. But on the 23rd, they will be going out there and pre-vacuuming the site to make sure that when they do the boring, that they are not going to run into any existing utilities or conduit, because the last thing we want to do is when we do borings is damage any conduit or existing utility lines, because then it's a repair job. Once the boring is done, the existing sidewalk area, brick area where the boring will be taking place will be repaired. And we will have, I'm not sure exactly when, but I would expect within a week or two, we would have a soil boring report, which tells us, what type of soils there are underneath there, which I can then give to our structural engineer here. And he will tell us, okay, your foundation has to consist of X. And they're pretty much standard foundations for these types of urban locations. Once we have that would be going on at the same time, we will be doing our design work, and we expect to have the design effort completed by the end of September, early, first week in October, give or take. And then we will take that and we can give that information to the town. The town can have it checked if they so desired. And then it can be given to the contractor. And I forget who the town uses. I tried to find my old emails, but a whole bunch of them I just discovered have been deleted, but I hope not permanently, because you may or may not know, but Bayside has merged with Fuss and O'Neill. So we are now a 420 person firm. So then we can, as I said, we could, hopefully we can reuse some of the existing equipment and not have to order new equipment. But we won't know that until we get the boring done and we do our actual design.
Thank you, Ken.
You're welcome.
Rob, any questions?
I'm gonna let you and I unmute her. I'll let you and Marianne take the lead on this one. I'll circle back with any additional questions.
All right, thank you, Rob. Marianne, any questions or thoughts?
Yeah, and thank you, Mr. Cram, for that explanation. So if I understand you, after the boring gets done and we get the boring report, then the design work is done, which we hope will be done by the end of September, early October. And then, am I correct, at that point, we'll understand what equipment we need?
Yes.
Okay. And then I understand there can be some lead time involved with equipment, depending on what equipment it is that we need. Is that fair to say?
That is fair to say.
Okay. I see an estimate here of some equipment can take between 9 to 12 months to obtain.
That's what we're experiencing right now. Yes.
Okay. So I wonder if, perhaps we could think, Joe, of just getting an update perhaps later this fall as to where we are, what equipment we need, what we've been told as far as how long it's going to take, just so that we can advise residents as to when all of this is likely to be installed.
I agree, Marianne. What do you think about first meeting in November is adequate lead time?
That makes sense to me.
Ken, do you agree?
Yeah, that would be fine. We should have everything done and into the town, like I indicated, in early October, the latest. And that way, if Todd's people want to take a look at the information and review it, and if they have any questions or anything, we can address those and have a plan going forward after that.
And actually, I spoke too soon. I want to get Nora to weigh in on that question, as she's been so involved in terms of when you think, Nora, an update would be best and make sense.
Yeah. I think sometime in November makes sense. As soon as we get the report from Ken, we will send it to Beta. Dennis Flynn has worked on this for the town previously, and so I would like to ask Dennis to take a look at it before any equipment is ordered. And then Todd Fortune and Brendan Ryan would also, I'm sure, want to review it and would then work together with their contacts at Mass Bay.
Great, thank you.
So, Nora, do you think November 18th meeting would give them sufficient time?
I believe it would. Dennis is actually here for
Want me to
another.
bring him in, Nora?
presentation.
I can bring him in.
Yeah, maybe ask him how long it would take for him to review.
He's joining right now, Jim.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tish.
In the meantime, whoever's got the radio on, turn it off, please.
Dennis, welcome.
Hello, good evening. I apologize. Can someone repeat the question just so I make sure? I knew
Sure.
we were looking for a schedule.
So Ken is expecting to have the results of the boring test and have a plan for what to do to move forward, whether there's going to be a new mast arm or just a new foundation on the old one, whether new equipment will be needed or whether the existing equipment can be reused. And Ken
Right.
expects to have that plan to us in October. And the question was how long it might take Beta to review it before they can take any action.
Okay, yeah, so that's largely really a structural evaluation. And my guess on that is, that's a couple week turnaround, 2-3 week turnaround just to do a fair assessment. Obviously as we get closer to that date and we have we have a better understanding exactly what has come in, we'll be able to assess our schedules better. But that duration typically works out from past experiences I've had with this.
So if Ken's looking at mid to late October and the select board is looking at having a report at a meeting like this on November 18th, that's doable.
I think so. Yeah.
Thank you.
Good about that. Yeah. You're welcome.
Thanks, Dennis. Thanks, Nora. So Ken, Marion, do you agree? We'll ask him to pencil that in for the 18th?
Sounds good to me.
All right.
Mr. Chair,
Sir.
just from a logistical standpoint, we would need that report by November 8th for your November 18th meeting. That's when the information for the packet for the meeting on the 18th, we gather that information and Tish does a great job putting that information. So when we meet with you to go over the agenda, we have that information and we're ready to send that out. So is that something that would be doable, Dennis and Ken? Or Dennis more so?
I believe so.
Okay.
You would need our final, or basically our comments,
Right.
Our review of the submission.
Mhm.
Right now, I feel good about that. But certainly as time gets closer, we'll when we know exactly when it's coming in. And I wouldn't be upset at all, Ken Cram, if you got that in even a little sooner, if feasible.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so let's shoot for those two dates, the 8th and the 18th. Ken and Dennis, is that good, Chris? Rob, you wanted the last bite of the apple before I open up to the public?
Thank you, Joe. No, I'm fine with the timing as laid out.
Fingers crossed, Rob. Okay. Tish, anything from the public on any? I don't see anything.
No questions.
All right, so Ken, we'll see you, and Dennis, I guess, on the 18th. I don't think we need a formal motion on this.
You do not, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Pat. All right, thank you, gentlemen, and thank you, Nora. So let's move on to our next order of business, which is I believe it's the Canton Street. Make sure I get the language correct. The Canton Street project. Canton
Yeah,
Street.
this is
I'm
Canton
sorry?
Street traffic study. So we have Merrick Turner and Dennis Flynn from Beta to report on this. They performed a traffic study at the select board's request on traffic in the Canton-Everett-Forbes neighborhood for comparison of new data to data that was last taken in 2016. So Merrick and Dennis are here, and they can explain the purpose of the study, how it was conducted, and then what their results were.
Thank you, Nora. Before we do this, I want to make an observation here. This is an awful lot of data. I spent the weekend and I still did not finish going through all of the reports and the numbers and reviewing them. And Rob, Mary, unless you folks disagree, I prefer to ask the public to hold off on any questions at this time. Let's just have our presentation, and then we can do a follow-up at a later meeting. And part of my reasoning behind that was, Marianne, I thought when Chris and I discussed this, that your Canton Street project, sidewalk project, may be interested in reviewing the numbers. And I was also interested in seeing what the Pedestrian Bike Safety Committee had to say as well. So I think we've got some other committees that need to digest these numbers. I know I have to spend some more time on it. I don't know about Rob and Marianne. So with that in mind, I prefer to have a presentation and ask folks to hold their questions, and we can follow up with the questions and answers at our next meeting. Are you folks okay with that, Rob, Marianne?
I may have a couple of questions I'd love to just get clarity on here tonight, if that's okay.
Sure. Yeah, I'm thinking about the public's seeing it for the first time. You need some time to digest this.
Sure.
Yeah. Of course, the board can ask questions because we've had it in advance to look at, but I don't know about you, man, but I spent a lot of time on this. So who wants to lead off on this? Dennis or?
So this is Merrick Turner. Let me just kick off this part of the presentation. Could we also have Isaac Almy join at a
I'm here, Merrick. Yeah.
Oh, you're there. Okay, good.
Yeah.
So we submitted a memo a little over a week ago. We've summarized that memo into a PowerPoint presentation, essentially kind of reduced it to the tables and major conclusions. And what we were thinking we would do is run through that presentation, if that's okay with everyone, just to sort of summarize those various tables. And at that point, go into the questions and comments to the extent that folks want to do that. Does that work for everyone? Alternatively, we can just jump straight to discussing the memo.
Let's start with your presentation first, please.
Okay, so Isaac, do you want to just walk us through this, and then we'll pause at the end for questions, comments, and so forth.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm Isaac Almy. I'm with Beta. I'm a traffic engineer. I worked on this study. Just to kind of give a little bit of an introduction and background, MassDOT improvements to the Dedham Street corridor over I-95 are completed. The new northbound off-ramp from I-95 to Dedham Street that opened in November of 2023. This project's purpose was to collect current traffic volume data on Canton Street and then compare that to historical data. And that historical data was from the November 2016 Canton Street before and after evaluation. So the data collection program consisted of 7 days of traffic data from Thursday, April 25th to Wednesday, May 1st. This collected...
Just real quick, just for the public, when you said the before and after data from 2016, that's before and after the opening of University Ave, right, Nora?
So there were counts taken, I believe, in 2013 before the opening, and then again in 2015, 2016 after the opening. The numbers that are compared in this traffic study that was done now are to the latest group that was taken 2015, 2016. Yeah. So that was after all of University Station was open.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for that clarification. Yeah. So it consisted of volume and speed data. So to make a direct comparison, we counted at the same 5 locations as the previous study. So 3 of those locations were on Canton Street. One of them was on Downey Street. The second one was on was south of Downey Street. The second one was north of Spellman Road. The third one was south of Hemlock Drive. And then a traffic count on Everett Street, located west of Lyons Drive. A traffic count on Forbes Road, located south of Spellman Road. And in addition to the count data, we also did digital travel time surveys using Google Maps travel time information. So we collected travel time information with Google Maps over 4 days, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday during the morning peak hours. And we looked at Canton Street as well as 3 alternative routes. So first we'll look at speed data. This table is average weekday speed data. So it compares 2016 data to 2024. Overall, speeds have increased in most locations between 1 to 4 miles per hour. Speeds on Everett Street decreased between 3 to 6 miles per hour. Speeds on Canton Street are above the speed limit, and speeds on Forbes Road and Everett Street are consistent with the speed limit. So this table here is just Saturday. The previous was weekday. So on Saturday, speeds have increased in most locations 1 to 4 miles per hour. Speeds have reduced on Everett Street between 3 to 6 miles per hour. Speeds on Canton Street are again above the speed limit. And then again, speeds on Forbes and Everett Street are consistent with the speed limit. So here we'll take a look at the weekday average volumes. So this table is both directions of traffic, not a single direction. And then there's three sections: a daily, AM peak, and a PM peak. So weekday daily volumes are generally the same between 2016 and 2024. AM and PM peak hour volumes are generally lower in 2024. However, Forbes Road increased in the peak hour volume. That was just Forbes Road. This is just looking at a single direction, northbound direction on Canton Street. So the daily volumes are generally the same comparing 2016 and 2024. Northbound AM peak volumes are generally higher in 2024, and the PM peak hour volumes are generally lower in 2024. A portion of the AM peak hour increase may be attributed to the I-95 off-ramp. The exact determination of the ramp cut-through traffic would require an origin-destination study. This is weekday again. This is just the southbound direction. So southbound daily volumes are generally the same, but compared to 2016. Southbound AM peak hour volumes are generally lower in 2024, and the PM peak hour volumes are generally the same in 2024. If we just look at on Saturday, looking at Saturday numbers, Saturday and peak hour volumes are higher in both peak and daily for 2024. A second peak was observed on Canton Street late in the afternoon. We need additional data to determine if that was if that was typical or not. Saturday volumes increase, but are still less than what weekday volumes are.
Isaac, real quick, just as a question before you leave Saturday, and it'll be the same question for Sunday.
Yeah.
What are you defining as peak hour on Saturday? And again, what would you define as peak hour on Sunday?
So peak hour, we're defining as the highest volume in that day.
Right, I get that. So what would that be from a time window standpoint?
For time window, I think we had that. If you give me a moment, I could probably look it up. Or if Merrick, you had that.
Yeah, let me just find that for you, Isaac. Just
I
remind
think
me.
Saturday, I think I have it. Saturday was in 2024 was 4 to 5 p.m. Sunday was 2 to 3 p.m.
And are those times consistent with prior studies, just for our sake?
They don't align with the same, the times don't align at the same time.
Okay, thank you.
So Sunday, both directions. Sunday daily volumes are similar in 2024. Peak hour volumes are also similar in 2024 compared to 2016. And then the Sunday volumes are still less than weekday and Saturday volumes. For travel time data, what we did was we took live travel times in the morning peak hour between 7 and 9 in the morning. We collected it Tuesday through Friday, the same week that the volume data was collected. We averaged each day's travel time with each route, and then we compared those against each other. And then every route had the same start and end point. So if you're not able to see this map, the 4 routes, route number 1 was via US Route 1. Route number 2 was via Canton Street. Route number 3 was via University Ave. And then route number 4 was going through the I-95 interchange. This is a chart comparing Route 1 versus Canton Street. So travel times using Canton Street on Tuesday and Friday were the same as Route 1. Travel times using Canton Street on a Wednesday and Thursday are longer than Route 1. This chart here is comparing Canton Street and University Ave. Travel times using Canton Street are longer on all days compared to University Ave. And then this chart here, this is the last chart. This is comparing the I-95 interchange versus Canton Street. So travel times using Canton Street on Fridays are the same as using the I-95 interchange. Travel times using Canton Street on Wednesday and Thursday are longer than the I-95 interchange, and travel times using Canton Street on Tuesday is shorter than the I-95 interchange. And then there's a couple other observations. Except for Tuesday, compared to the I-95 interchange route, the route via Canton Street was either longer or the same as an alternative route. And then travel times via Canton Street were not the shortest available route. So that's the presentation. It's basically, it kind of went through all the data of the memo at a high level. So we'll open it up to any questions and comments.
Thank you, Isaac. Let's stick with questions and comments from the board. Rob.
Sure thing. Thank you, Joe. High level, I was pleased to see that generally speaking, not a lot of change in traffic on Canton Street, especially in those peak hours in the directions that you would expect them to be, right? You'd expect the northbound to be heaviest in the morning, southbound to be heaviest in the evening. What I was surprised at, though, was the weekend increase in traffic. And one of the things that I was hoping you guys might be able to provide is you only provided the total both direction traffic. Wondering if you might be able to split that and give us the same northbound, southbound breakout on those with respect to Canton Street. Because it really seems like that's where folks seem to be experiencing the largest change in traffic, right? I think that, your Saturday peak, if I sort of aggregated all 3 of the Canton Street locations, is up, I don't know, call it 75%, something like that. So I'm just curious as to, which direction that's coming from and what might be behind that. But overall, my takeaway on it was not a huge impact on Canton Street, a little bit different on Forbes and Everett, especially Forbes, except for the weekend. The weekend is where I see the biggest impact.
Yeah, I think that's a good summary. I think the weekend is certainly where the difference in volumes was kind of most noteworthy. We do have a little bit of extra information that we can share with you on a Saturday, perhaps to give you some breakdown there. But essentially, the increase in volume on the Saturday was a southbound move. And we'll show you a chart or two in a moment, but essentially late in the day on Saturday, there was a second peak that occurred during the day. It was a little bit of an unusual chart. And we're attributing that probably to something on 128, where maybe people started getting off onto Canton Street. So that's why we note that as something unusual that may not be typical. But let me see if Isaac, do you happen to have those charts handy, or do you want me to see if I can bring them up?
Yeah, see if you can get those.
All right. Okay.
Can you cross-reference that at all with like any state traffic accident data or anything like that to see if there was an anomaly that day?
I don't think. Yeah, I don't think we were able to do that, were we, Isaac? Did we find anything there?
For that Saturday, no, I don't think we were able to.
All right. Let me just share here.
Yeah, Merrick, as you're bringing that up, just to hack onto that, if it was an incident, an accident, we could likely get some additional information. If it was just congestion based on something, something that's not really reported by the state, then we really wouldn't necessarily be able to get our arms around or determine what that is. So it was a little unusual just on that side, the 4 to 5 time frame for a Saturday peak is a bit unusual. Usually in a Saturday and also a Sunday, the highest demand or the highest peak tends to be in the middle of the day, sort of like an 11 to 2 or 3 time frame, particularly in an area with the land use, adjacent land use on University Ave. So to see the 4 to 5 did certainly jumped out at us. And I think if you guys have that chart available, it is.
Yeah. I'm just getting a message I can't share while Isaac's sharing. So Isaac, can you just stop?
Yeah. Go ahead.
All right. Okay, let me try this now. Just let me know if everyone can see that.
Not yet.
All right. I'm going to try. Let me try this. How about now?
No.
Still not.
All right, let's try this one more time.
There you go.
All right. Okay, how about, do you see the chart now? Oh, there it is. Yes?
Yes.
Okay, all right, very good. So what you're looking at here is an average weekday. Green is 2024, blue is 2016 data. And you can see that this follows a kind of an expected shape. It rises up in the morning, drops off a little bit, rises up in the evening and drops off a little bit. So that's a normal chart, right? That's what you'd expect during a weekday. So if we go to Saturday, and these are combined volumes now. So this is the total volume. So again, green is 2024 and blue is 2016. So back in 2016, we would call that a normal Saturday, an expected Saturday, let's say. Sort of rises up to around 1 p.m. and then begins to fall off late in the day. And you can see in 2024, it rose up. It looked like it was trying to do that and fall off and continue down a line through the rest of the day. But around 5 o'clock, there was a second movement up and then a quick movement down. Initial thought was, is there something going on with Topgolf? But there was no, we'd expect to see a return, something occurring here, going the opposite direction further on in the evening. And if we drill down even further than this, and I can show you the chart if everyone would like, essentially you would see that this is a southbound move that's creating this second peak in the afternoon. So from time to time, we did dig a little bit deeper, but on the Saturday, essentially what you're seeing as the 100% is this high peak here, this second high peak, compared to the 2016, let's call it a normal peak. So that's part of the reason why you're seeing that bigger volume, and the percentage is increasing as you're coming down Canton Street because volume's getting lost to the neighborhood. So you just, there's a through volume that just creates essentially a larger percentage. So we think the most likely explanation here on the Saturday is potentially something going on 128. That's not to say that volumes hadn't increased anyway. That's still likely, but perhaps it is not typical for it to be a 100% increase.
Merrick, what was the date in April? The Saturday date?
Isaac, do you know what that was offhand?
I can look at that up.
I feel like it was May 1st, wasn't it?
Wednesday was May 1st, so right.
It would have been
yeah,
about
Wednesday.
4th or 5th.
It would have been
No,
the
it would have been
27th, April
yeah.
27th. Yeah.
Oh, I know what that could have been. Well, no, maybe not then. Wasn't the Little League parade where they closed part of East Street also that day? But that would have affected the morning, so shouldn't be that. It should be an accident of some sort.
Yeah, it looked like it was about 200 to 300 vehicles that just came down.
NBA playoffs were going on at that time. Celtics, something of that nature. Who knows? It's right around that time frame.
I was thinking something of Great Woods or out in Foxborough. It's definitely an outlier.
And I guess, part of the reason we're doing this, right, is to understand what is the impact on the neighborhood. And I know we're having this discussion to talk about what, if anything more, we need to do here. In the absence of an explanation other than this looks to be an anomaly, likely a traffic issue that we don't have data for. I think it would be important to understand if this is a true picture. We're talking about a change of 1,500 cars. That's really significant. And on a day, on a Saturday when you've got families out and about, and so that's how I'm leaning. Early in this discussion, I just wanted to put that out there.
And Marianne, actually, to build on it, even if it is an anomaly, right, where there was a traffic event that led to this, this highlights the impact of Waze and Apple Maps and Google Maps rerouting traffic.
Right. That's right. I'd like to look at this again on a Saturday to see how the data compares. And I wanted to ask about possibly doing travel origination. Could one of you speak to that, how that might look if we zero in on a Saturday?
Let me just stop sharing this for a moment.
That was very helpful. Thank you.
So, so as far as origination is concerned, origin destination. So, would we be talking northbound from the ramp, or would we be talking southbound from 128, or both?
I mean, I think, you know, if you were to do it, I would focus on northbound in the AM peak and southbound in the PM peak, but that's just, you know, I may be introducing some bias to it, but that's what I would think.
Yeah. So if we were just the simplest version, and Dennis, Isaac, just weigh on this as you see appropriate. Let's just take the northbound off ramp. So if we were just dealing with that ramp in the AM peak, probably the easiest way we could do it is with observers, positioning someone on the northbound off ramp. But typically, what we would do is record license plates, and then if those license plates reappear, also by observation at the rotary, then you know the traffic originated as a left turn from the northbound off ramp and re-originated as an entrance to the roundabout. And in the south direction, we would ideally do the same. You would observe traffic coming off of 128 onto Canton Street, and then try and re-observe them down at the Canton, the southbound on ramp to 95. So the efficiency of doing multiple moves gets a little bit trickier the more you do, and we might want to look at some more automated methods to do that. But essentially, that would be the approach. Isaac, Dennis, any addition to that?
Addition, no. I think we would just want to, maybe the question I had is just to think about whether the southbound is critical. Just thinking about, you know, the major change obviously is the introduction of the new northbound off ramp on Canton Street. Essentially, nothing has changed for southbound since that construction, correct? I know you can now make a left onto the southbound ramp as part of that project that wasn't there before. But in terms of vehicles from 128 coming heading south onto Canton and then onto the I-95 southbound off ramp, that move's been in place since prior to this construction. So just, I know volumes have increased in some of the scenarios, but what is causing that is, you know, we couldn't necessarily pin that onto the construction per se. But just something to think about, whether that piece of it would be as critical, or if we really just want to focus on.
Yeah, that's a fair point. That's a fair point. Absolutely.
I mean, we do have Topgolf, that's new. So it could be that a lot of that traffic is going there in a southbound direction.
Yeah, if that were the case, if you observe southbound, you would see them along Canton and then never make it to the ramp. And then you could reasonably draw a conclusion that all that southbound traffic is simply just not coming down Canton Street to access the ramp on the 95. And again, yeah, that they would be, their destination would be one of the developments. Topgolf, for example, would probably be a big one now.
Well, even if there was something at Gillette Stadium, though, a little birdie told me that Messi was there on April 27th, so that would impact a big time, big soccer crowd trying to get to a game during a specific time.
Oh.
I mean, I do think like the sporting events, I've noticed historically on 128 on every Saturday that I've traveled around 4 to 5 trying to get possibly into the city. But even a Red Sox game will screw things up, even though it's a good distance away. But if there's an event at Gillette, it's certainly going to spike a study over a weekend period, especially on a particular day. That'd be worth looking into too before we really get into the weeds in this thing and find out it was something not as simple as that, but how does Gillette Stadium events affect or impact this? I don't think it's fair to say I'm big on Topgolf definitely having an impact, but those numbers, I mean, Topgolf would have to expand 10 times the size to accommodate those types of numbers.
Yeah, I'm getting that there was a New England Revolution game that night at 7:40 at Gillette.
So that would be right dead on, you know, with respect to what those numbers are indicating, right, Dennis, Merrick? It seems like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. I mean, if you've got the volume on 128 and everyone's slowing down and just looking for other ways, then yes, it's entirely possible. So, and what we
that reinforces Dennis's earlier point, though, that the change that we're evaluating here is the change of the opening of the northbound ramp off of 95 North, where the cut through would be northbound on Canton Street, right? That's sort of that is sort of the main change. Yes, Top Golf, but if you're coming down 128 and things are backed up to try to get on 95 South, you're going to jump off of the East Street Rotary and come down Canton Street and try to hop on 95 South there. And that's not a new situation.
Right, but we weren't seeing, actually, I wonder, if when this was done in 2016 on the Saturday, maybe there wasn't an event at Gillette. So that could really make a difference. I mean, it's 1,500 cars. That's right.
Oh yeah.
No, is it? I think it was during the peak hours, about 200-300. It may have been
200-300 in the peak hour.
Yeah,
but 1,500 more on a Saturday.
Yes, over a 24-hour period.
So there are a couple of other things that have happened in this area since 2016, including opening of the skating club and opening of additional restaurants in the area. So I think you would expect to see additional Saturday traffic, but not in this peak hour.
So I guess my question, Marianne, is what do we do with this data?
Right.
I think most of us, at least I'm inclined to it being an outlier. I'm not sure pursuing it to a granular level is going to be that helpful. Dennis, unless you see something that I'm missing.
Well, let me just interject there. I don't think we, should think of it as an outlier because it happened in the neighborhood, right? And if it was due to an event, there are other events at so I think we're grappling with trying to understand it, and we're talking a lot and thinking a lot about Canton Street. We want to understand what that traffic is. This is important information. I'd just like to understand it better. So I guess, putting that twist on your question, Joe, maybe throwing it back to our colleagues here at Beta for your guidance.
Okay, yeah, just trying to think and talk at the same time, which I know can be a little dangerous.
Take your time.
Right. It's interesting because what's jumping out at us, what we're talking about a lot here is this southbound, this increase in the southbound, which was just sort of we had the data collection devices out there. Let's get that additional information to see what that's saying. The primary focus going back to that was to see if there were changes and what those changes were as a result of the new construction of the on-ramp and that going into November and coming back about 6 months later. So I guess it would be if that's because it's sort of we're reacting to this data we're seeing in front of us, and I don't necessarily say pivot, but kind of reframing or refocusing our attention a little bit and saying, well, should we be looking at this as well based on what the data is showing us? Should we be digging into that a little bit more, knowing that it's really independent and it really shouldn't have anything to do with the construction that took place at the interchange. So I think it would really come down to whether it's critical to understand that better, sort of in light of collecting that data and seeing that information as part of the study that was done. I'm not sure that really gave you an answer, but maybe gave you a question.
I think that what jumps out at me from this is that there can be significant impact when there's an event at Gillette or an accident where traffic is rerouted by Waze or Apple Maps, etc. But I guess I'm more focused on the other 5 days of the study, which are normal commuter days, northbound, southbound, when traffic is heaviest on that interchange where 95 meets 128. And traffic seems to be flat to down. That's my high level takeaway. So to me, I don't know that I see a big impact of the opening of the northbound slip ramp. But because of this event, we see that there can be impact based on the rerouting of traffic when things snarl. That's my sort of high level takeaway.
I would agree with that, Rob.
As would I. I'm also just wondering, somewhat anecdotally, maybe you folks have a better sense, the difference from 2016 to 2024 with navigation. I think maybe a bit different as far as the widespread use, and maybe that is playing a role in what we're seeing. I don't know if you have any comment on that.
I think it's a good observation. I think, and I haven't looked at this in great detail, but just kind of discussions, my own experiences. I know navigation devices has been around for a while. I think like everything that stays around, you have to improve, and different features have to get added. I think a big change now is it will redirect you or tell you ahead of a traffic incident that there's something downstream, suggest this alternate route. I think when they first came out, so someone could simply say to you like, well, no, 2016 there were navigation devices, but I think they're more intelligent, if lack of a better word, and they would probably be telling people. And I'll confess that I've certainly seen that myself. I'm like, oh yeah, no way, that construction down there. I'm avoiding that, and I notice I find myself going through probably local streets because that's what the navigation devices told me. So yeah, I think that's a fair observation. I think they've advanced to a level where we would expect them to be informing motorists to take, in this case, probably Canton Street.
Mm-hmm.
So do we feel that we have enough data? Is there any need for any additional collection of data? I don't personally see any, but I want to make sure that, I'm not speaking for my colleagues here.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm comfortable as long as, we treat this as this is real data for what can happen on Canton Street, and that we can't just dismiss this to say, well, gee, for some unknown reason, there had to have been a reason, and it's likely to have been some kind of rerouting due to an event or increased traffic. And I think as long as we're all accepting of that as being a condition, particularly on the weekend, I certainly agree. The data shows that on the weekdays it's flat, but that we've got to just bear in mind that there can be significant increased volume on Canton Street, particularly on the weekend.
I concur. All right. Rob, any other thoughts before we wrap this up?
None for me, thanks.
Marianne?
I'm good, Joe. Thank you.
I think I know I need a little more time to digest. I think the Dennis and Merrick and Isaac, I think, and Todd, you as well. Thanks for looking up Messi. I'm sure that was a big draw. It was very helpful. I need a little more time to digest it. I think we can probably I'd like to visit this in the future and give the public an opportunity to comment on it as well once we've studied this a little bit more. Unless you folks disagree, if you think we're all set, then I'm fine.
Do you have a date? Do you have, I mean, are we going to invite our friends from Beta back, and so if so, do we have a time frame that we want to give others an opportunity to look at the data? And what's your thought?
Well, it sounds like to me, Rob, as though we have a pretty good understanding, other than an explanation for the Saturday Sunday thing, and I'm not sure we're going to pursue it. I think, our objective was to see the difference, and as you pointed out, the weekdays were pretty similar, were pretty flat as far as that goes. So if we're not going to invite Beta back, then I should see if the public has any questions or comments. Otherwise, we can wrap this up.
Yeah, because it's
Chairman, there are 6 questions or comments in the Q&A, but no one's identified who they are. Well, they haven't identified, one person has not identified their address, and the other person has not identified their address and have just posted their initials.
And just
All right.
looking at the data between Saturday and Sunday, Saturday is definitely the outlier. Sunday traffic is up a little bit, but nowhere near as much as what was observed on that Saturday.
All right, let's give these folks an opportunity to, Pat, we need their address as well, correct? Okay, so looks like if you've submitted a question, I'm willing to entertain it, but I need your name and address. So
Correct.
give you a minute or two to do that.
Mr. Chair, I believe Christina Pedjewitz has put in 137 Forbes Road, and her 2 comments.
good.
This is not an outlier, happens regularly.
All right, thank you, Christina.
Don't know who SD is, where they live.
All right, Christina made a good observation. I understand that. I think we're ready to close this. Are you good with that, Mary Ann? Rob?
I just, I'm sorry.
We got one more. Did we get an address? Yes. Ray Murphy, 95 Forbes Road. My regular experience is that daily traffic is not flat. Canton Street Rotary regularly backs up way further. Thank you, Ray. And our objective with this, Nora, correct me if I'm wrong, was to compare to the earlier study to see if there's been a dramatic.
Yeah, so the traffic study was intended to see what's happened since University Station opened and now since the I-95 off-ramp is open, to see if there's been any significant changes related to the off-ramp and whether there's a need for further mitigation. Back at the time of the Westwood Station project, there was a discussion of an alternate intersection design for the intersection of University and Canton Street. And that was another study the Beta was asked to work on. And they continued work on that at the time of actually, I don't know if the Beta was involved in it at Westwood Station, but they certainly were when University Station was going into the process. And they studied some very preliminary concept designs for intersection changes there. And at that time, the thought was that to actually change the intersection to divert traffic, specifically traffic traveling up Canton Street from the off-ramp when the off-ramp came in, would cost in the millions of dollars. I think at the time it was thought to be somewhere between $6 and $10 million. And if we were to go forward with something like that now, I'm guessing it's somewhere between 10 and 20 million. So one of the questions before you tonight is whether or not you think there's a need to continue studying an alternate intersection design, or if you think that the changes from 2016, when it was decided that an alternate intersection was not warranted by the level of traffic, do you think there's anything different now? Do you feel that the difference in traffic in 2024 versus 2016 is significant enough to restart an alternate intersection study, with the idea that actually implementing an alternate intersection design would cost upwards of $10 million?
Does anyone see a need for that additional intersection work?
Before we go there, I just don't want to forget, I'm sure many residents are interested to read the report. The presentation was terrific, so I'm assuming that that will be posted on the website. Is that fair to say?
It's already posted on the website under the Canton Street Committee.
Excellent. Thank you, Chris.
That's all Tish. So,
Thank you, Tish. Thank you both. Okay, great. So folks can actually access the full report on the website. Good. As to, an alternate design, I think what we're seeing here is, not a significant increase as a result of the opening. Would that be fair to say, Beta folks, as to your conclusion?
Yes, I think that's true. We're not seeing, based on the volumes, this dramatic change in Canton Street as a result of the northbound ramp.
I think, what we've been talking about, significantly is what we're seeing coming the other direction on the Saturday. That's really the most dramatic change that we saw. But of course, that's not due to the new ramp having been opened.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Go ahead,
Marion.
Rob.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say there are 3 additional comments that I think are worth noting in the chat. If you'd like, I'm happy to read them.
Sure.
Steve Rowski, I need you to put in your address. Follow up from Christina Pedowitz. Can we go to the county and have the speed reduced to 25 miles per hour on Canton, similar to what they did in Canton? And then,
excuse me, Rob.
yes.
Steve put his address at the end of his comment.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you very much, Chris.
No problem.
Yeah, 646 Canton Street for the record.
Gotcha. Yep. So you got Christina's comment there.
Yep.
Steve Rowski, 646 Canton Street, has several observations. The study does show the speeds have not been reduced with current traffic calming treatments. Doesn't the study demonstrate that we need to do more to reduce traffic and speeds as originally desired? And then Marissa Toronto of 170 Canton Street asks, how do these numbers compare to traffic studies conducted more recently by Westwood Police Department? I think that covers all the comments that have been placed in the Q&A.
Okay, thank you, Rob. Thank you, Steve and Christina and Marissa. I'm not sure I can answer that question. Is there anyone here who can? I was not aware of a study.
So I can say that there was a discussion at a Canton Street project meeting, and I don't remember which one it was. I think it was in the early part of this year, where a police officer mentioned that they had put up a speed measurement device on Canton Street. I don't know that they were actually doing a study, nor do I know that they were conducting counts of vehicles. I think it was more measuring the speed, but we did not receive any information from that.
All right, I think we're ready to wrap this up. Marianne, great point about this is, Chris, you said Tish posted this on the Canton Street Working Group on the town's portal. Is that correct?
Yes, it's on the town's website on the Canton Street committee.
So the data is available for people to look at. Thank you for your questions. Thank you, Dennis, Merrick, and Isaac, and Todd and Nora for weighing in on this. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Fire Station 1 project update. We have Molly Fitzpatrick, Colin McCarthy, Chin Lin, and Dorr and Whittier representatives. This is the architectural firm. Dorr and Whittier will present to the board an update on the Fire Station 1 project. Updates will include walkthrough, proposed floor plan, and exterior massing. So who's leading off? Chin, are you leading off?
I'm just going to lead off really quickly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, nope, just I'm going to, as everybody's sort of trickling in, I will share my screen. Let's see, share. So I am delighted to be back. We haven't done this presentation for the board in quite some time. So today we are here to talk about the floor plans and massing where we are right now. I'm delighted to say that we finished up schematic design in July. And so this is really where we are in the project at this date. So I'm going to turn it over to Dorn Whittier. I think Chip is going to take the lead there to walk us through this. I just want to give a brief disclosure that we're bringing this to you today, August 19th. This has not gone in front of the planning board yet. It's scheduled to go in front of the planning board, I believe, September 24th. So while this is the expectation of the design, I just want to say it's no way set in stone, and it's going before the planning board next month. So with that, Chip, I will hit the next button and you can take it away.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for the opportunity to give you guys this update. So yeah, this overall site plan, just to get your bearings with the site, you have High Street on the right and Hillcrest on the left. You can see within the image some lighter lines outlining the existing building, and gives you a kind of a perspective of how much larger the new proposed building is. Going boundary setback to setback and through the south setback, as Molly indicated, we will be having to review this with the planning board. But just to give you a sense of the size of the building, you can kind of see how we have a bunch of dashed lines going through the lower section on the south side. So we have we have a large building kind of separating. There's no longer a drive aisle connecting High Street to Hillcrest. So the fire department staff will kind of enter the building from the Hillcrest place, park in the back. There are a few parking spots on the apron up front on the on the High Street side. And that's just more of an emergency situation or drop in, because they need an emergency care situation. So 5 apparatus bays out the front, giving direct discharge onto High Street. There are 2 smaller garage areas around back, and 1 large on the north side of the building, 1 apparatus bay, which actually we can just jump to the next slide and we'll be able to see some of these spaces a little more clearly. Level 0, the basement level. So this is kind of the back side. The left side of the screen here is the lower level. The top area is a maintenance bay area. They currently have a maintenance bay. This allows them to keep that part of the program. Gives them a little bit of workshop space below there. And you see the other large red area on the screen towards the bottom is those 2 garage areas, garage spaces for storing additional apparatus and equipment. The blue areas are utility spaces. So you have your mechanical, electrical, your INET, and then the yellow spaces are circulation. So hallways and stairwells. The main level, so this is off of High Street on the right side of the screen. Again, 5 apparatus bays, taking up the majority of the plan and, kind of really driving the program. Support spaces on the left side of that plan, where they have their turnout gear, their decon, their kind of the cleaning area for the equipment. And this is to kind of see a lot of measures taken here to physically separate these areas from the living quarters throughout the building, to kind of maintain that kind of safe air and wellness in the building. The lobby, the main lobby entry space, is kind of that lower section there. We have the yellow and the elevators off of that as well. So just a lot of fire program on this level, and really is, like I said, the driver for the overall building. We can jump to the next slide and we'll take a look at there's a mezzanine floor because of the height of the apparatus spaces. There's a mezzanine to the back. So this red area that you see here is over those support spaces, and it gives an opportunity for additional storage spaces. In the lower corner, you have a storage space for file storage, and an MBF room, which is, kind of an IT space. Again, in that whole building utility platform. And so, and then the other thing you see on this mezzanine is some training opportunities with the extra space, you know, that we have from having the mezzanine, and it's accessible from both staircases and the elevator. So this is a training space where the fire department can, you know, work on, you know, door kind of accessing doors in fire conditions. There's some openings in the wall that connects to the apparatus side, so they can do some window work. They can set up like a maze inside the room to help them, you know, navigate spaces. So it's really a good opportunity for them to, you know, kind of develop and work on their skills and their training while they're, you know, in their own firehouse without having to travel elsewhere to do so. So really a nice feature that you know, that we have in there for them. The second level, you see a lot less red on this level. The red you do see on this one is the administration suite. So you have your offices for the chief, the assistant chief, and like the admin staff. The green area is a training room and lobby area where we could have training sessions. This would be for more presentations and training that the department would do. And then the yellow and the gold are kind of the living quarters. So dorm rooms around the top and center, and a kitchen, dining, and day room, and fitness along the left side. So there's a lot of program packed into the footprint here. So really tight plan. And don't know if there's any, we want to entertain questions now or just keep going through the whole thing. Might as well just, I guess we'll keep going through the, let's just keep going, yeah. Elevation wise, from High Street, you know, we worked with the department to really kind of get, you know, a feel for, you know, kind of what kind of an expression they wanted on their elevations. And like, again, like the apparatus bay drove the plan, the High Street elevation really drives the exterior. So you said we have some arches over the apparatus bay doors and at the entry. We have kind of a different, right now it's shown as a stone material, but again, like Molly indicated, we're very early. So whether it's stone or it's a masonry that's different than brick is how I would refer to it. Where the upper part is a brick and is modeled as such, but kind of gives you an idea of like the different materials and kind of how they kind of break up the building. So again, this is, yep, and then we'll jump to, no, that's fine. No, keep going. Perfect. This is the backside looking from Hillcrest, a little uphill crest, but back at that, looking towards the southwest corner. You see the apparatus and the maintenance, or the garages and the maintenance bay on the lower level, the tall stair tower again, and you know, just we're still working again with the exterior treatments to try to get some, whether it's precast or soldier coursing, some get the masonry to kind of, you know, work with us on the as we go around the building. You know, there's a lot of facade here that we're working with, so we're working with the department just to kind of, you know, see what we can do with this. And you know, you can see we had some there is some screening provided on the roof for some of the HVAC equipment as well. So we're kind of already starting to think about some stuff like that. Here's some High Street perspectives that we put together to due to the proximity of the abutters. So looking from High Street in both directions, both north and south, kind of give you an idea of how the building fits into the landscape. And there's just two other versions of that, one more straight on, and then one, you know, a little bit more of an acute angle from the north. Just trying to get a little context, both existing and changed. So.
Awesome. Thank you, Chip. I'm going to keep him here for questions, but I just want to have Chin pop on. I always forget that this is animated to do an update on where we are in terms of the budget and where we are in terms of the schedule.
Yeah, and as you can see on the project schedule slide on the that's on the screen right now, that this is what we established in the early part of the when the project started, and right now that we have completed the schematic design portion and went out for pricing, and that right now that we're happy to report that we're on budget and on schedule, and we will go out to bid next March.
And then the last thing I just want to share before I unshare my screen is sort of what's next. So what's next is we're starting our roadshow, if you will. So we're going to have a meeting with abutters of the project, both at the High Street location and the American Legion. That meeting will be held on Thursday, September 5th at 6 p.m. at the library. And then our first public information session will be held on Monday, September 16th, also at 6 p.m. at the library. We'll have a booth at Westwood Day, and then, like I said, we'll be in front of the planning board come September 24th. So with that, I am going to unshare my screen and answer any questions that you might have, or I will direct them to someone who can answer it.
Thank you, Molly. Thank you, Chip. Nice job. Rob, would you like to start?
Sure thing. I guess I'll start with one for Colin. Chief, how you guys feeling about what you see so far? It looks like it has really been well thought from a programming standpoint and building from that as the center outward. Is that a fair assessment? And how are you and the team feeling about things?
I would say that is a fair assessment for sure. I think the team here has really done a pretty good job of developing this building around our core mission, keeping it with the lot that they have to design. They've done a really good job of keeping all our day-to-day activities within that core of the building. So that makes our life a lot easier as far as getting to the trucks and really fulfilling our role as a fire department and kind of keeping us moving. So all the deputy chiefs have been kind of an integral part of relaying the messages and getting the message back to the design team as far as what we need going forward. And they've really done a good job of capturing that so far. So no complaints from our end thus far.
Great. Thank you.
You stole my question, Rob. Chief McCarthy, if I could just delve into that a bit more. I think you just said it, but I want to be sure that the firefighters feel that their voices are being heard, that your needs are being met with this design, and that it does what you think it needs to do.
We do, and even starting back to the beginning, they really came to us, and we filled out some questionnaires so we could explain some things that we needed in the future, the way the industry is going. As far as getting a clean station, they've done a really good job of setting apart. I think Chip spoke to it as kind of, we have a hot area, a warm area, and a cold area. A hot area being our live area. That's where we're leaving, coming and going. We're going to calls and coming back. And then we kind of have a decon station in the back, as well as a living area, which is our normal day-to-day house, and our administrative areas too, for our office building and those types of areas, and really separating those areas, but keeping us close to our trucks and where we need to be is kind of essential to how we operate. And they've done a good job of doing that. Aside from that, I think we've certainly moved in the right direction. And I think most of the membership is very happy with the way things have gone so far, for sure.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Colin. Rob, I just want to follow up on one thing, and Chip, I don't want you to go back to the slides. I think we've got that covered, but just Rob and Marion, these guys brought a lot to the table. I'm going to give you two examples. One is when you look at the back of the fire station, the training area, one of the deputies brought up the fact about the elevation for the windows, because Chip arranged it so those windows will be at elevation so they can train with different length ladders. They're not locked into that. So that was a huge thing that they brought to the table. And there were other things as well with their construction knowledge and their experience. It was just invaluable going through the process. And for me, it was fun to watch. They really brought a lot to the table.
Thank you, Joe. Just a follow-up question to that. I think this one may be for Molly, but maybe for you as well, having been a participant in all these discussions. Molly, when you're talking about the public information sessions, will you be highlighting at all some of the things that were eliminated in order to really be tight with this design to fulfill the mission that Chief McCarthy spoke of earlier?
Absolutely. I've been keeping a very detailed list of everything that we have not done, as well as everything that we have done. This presentation, so the plans will be posted on the website tomorrow, and so residents will really be able to see. This is really, it's a square box. It's a really economical space. We have no frills in this building. This is really just made to house the programming that the fire department needs. So that's something that we're going to really be trying to educate the public on as we move forward.
Excellent. And Rob, it's really the Chip, you can speak to this, but it's really the apparatus floor that drives the size of the building. They didn't start off with, we'll have this building this size. They started with the apparatus, which is key in the whole operation of the department, and then they built the station around that, and those were the guardrails as far as what they could do.
Yeah, the only thing I would add, Mr. Chair, there is that I failed to mention it during the presentation, was the amount of slope that we have on the site. The grade change from High Street to the back. You saw it in the elevations. It's a drastic change, but that also prevented us from maybe turning the building 90 degrees and having the longer dimension of the building go the longer way on the site. But because of our slope, we wouldn't have that opportunity, to get the apparatus to come out and turn on and to meet High Street. We have to meet it like head on the way we're doing it, right? Discharging right onto High Street. So a lot of that was dictated by, again, like you said, the apparatus and the site really played a huge role in it.
Joe, I have just one more question, if I may. I'm not sure who to address this to, whether it be Chin or someone else, but could someone just briefly describe how this new design is going to increase safety for our firefighters compared to what we have now?
I would love to jump to start it, and then I would probably defer to Colin after the fact. Colin really referenced the greatest safety issue that we have in our current station right now is that all of the turnout gear is being housed in the apparatus floor, right? So it's not just, carcinogens in the air when firefighters go to a fire that they need to worry about. They have to worry about it in their gear. And in our case, they have to worry about their gear in the apparatus floor with all of that diesel and exhaust just pouring onto them. So that's really the number one safety concern that I can come up with. The second is the building is quite literally falling down, right? It's being held up by beams. And so it's being reviewed regularly by a structural or engineer, but we really want to make sure that nothing ever happens with that building structurally that could have a negative safety effect on a firefighter. And then because I've been doing so much reading on this recently, really looking into mental health is another really key area. It's the mental health of firefighters. They see the worst of the worst. They see people on their worst days, and they have to come back, and they're trained to do it. They do it for a living. They're wonderful at it, but having a space where they can go and decompress. There's no decompression space in the current station as we have it right now. There's no place for people to get away. There's no place for them to be able to really look outside. So those are the key health and wellness areas I see in the new station. Colin, I don't know if there's anything I missed that you want to focus on.
I would echo the things that you just mentioned as well. Another thing I would mention is right now, like in the current Station 1 situation, when our members want to go to get their exercise in for the shift, they have to go down to the basement level, and it's kind of a distance from the apparatus floor currently, which kind of sometimes discourages them from doing that during the shift. Whereas the current setup for our exercise equipment now makes it a lot easier for our membership to take part in exercise during the shift while staying on the ready and ready to go. Molly, you brought up a good point. There are areas of the building also that allow us kind of time for yourself, time to get away a little bit while you're on shift, but it also maximizes the space for us to be together too. We still have that the coffee table area where we can sit and discuss things over the shift, which we need both of those elements throughout the shift. And I think we've included all of those areas in this design.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any comments? And Marianne, I'll just follow up with the fact what Molly and Colin had to say is there's been a huge change in the firefighting practice, in the sense that when I was on the job back in the 1800s, the more plaster and soot and ash you had on your turnout gear, the better. But subsequently, they've learned that there are carcinogens there. So now, as I'm sure you saw on your tour, they have the commercial washers, so they can be their turnout gear can be cleaned right away, and they have a second set of gear, and all of those areas are, as Chip described, isolated from other areas to keep those chemicals that offload as the gear is drying from getting out into the living quarters. So this has been a huge change in the professional firefighting.
Mr. Chair, before we leave, I see there is one question in the Q&A for you.
Okay.
Looks like it's from Kathy Wallace, 283 Farm Lane. What do other modern fire stations have that was not incorporated into this design? And the follow-up question is, what requests from firefighters were not incorporated into this design?
Colin, I'm gonna turn to you. Yeah, I can't think of anything off the top of my head. In fact, but we could go on for a while, Rob. They incorporate some great training stuff in this, which is excellent. As Chip pointed out, they don't have to go off site. So, Colin, anything jump out at you?
Nothing off the top of my head. I think we really, on our side, we've done some of the research in the surrounding fire stations that have been built within the last few years, and we've taken bits and pieces of those stations to try to incorporate that into this design. Some things that work well for us, and some things that may not work well for us. But as far as the training, the big thing that we were able to get into this, especially in that mezzanine level, we were able to provide a little bit of extra training space for us, which is really invaluable. Some things that we don't have in our current location. As far as things that we weren't able to fit into it, I can't think of anything specifically off the top of my head, but I'd be happy to follow up on some point if I could, if I think of something for sure.
Thank you, Colin.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, Chip had his hand up.
I'm sorry?
Just wanted to say Chip had his hand up if he, I think he wanted to.
No, I was just going to add that the sorry, lost my train of thought. No, so we during the programming exercise, a lot of we did start with a very broad brush, and we said, give us everything you want in the station, and then we pare it down, and for the most part, most of the things got combined with other spaces. Very little of it fell to the wayside. Where if we had like a separate report writing room, we combined that with something else so it could do a dual purpose. So not a lot of elements got cut from the original program that we worked together with the department on, but a lot of it got more efficient, I would say, and to get into the box. So I think there's not a lot that that this station's going to be missing.
And Chip, you hit on a huge point, because that was something that I don't believe is available at the moment, or is challenging to do, but there are HIPAA regulations as well that they have to be mindful of after their ambulance runs, and they do need that privacy, which that's the station currently can't provide. So that's a very good point.
Yep.
Molly, any questions from your assistant on this before we
I want to indulge everybody by allowing me to do double duty tonight.
Great. All right, folks, any last minute questions?
None from me.
That was a great presentation. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on to state primary election warrant, and I see we have our star town clerk here. Dottie, would you like to take it away?
Good evening. Thank you for having me, Chairman Profiteer and Board. I am happy to say that the election is upon us. It's been a quick summer. I just want to run through some things and just, have the public just be aware of some important dates. The last day to register to vote, if you want to participate in the primary, is August 24th. On Saturday, we will be open in the town clerk's office from 9 a.m. until 5 p.m. for anybody that wants to do it in person. It can also be done online, and that is until 11:59 p.m. Or if you want to mail in an application, as long as it's postmarked on or before April 24th, then we will accept it. And that's for anybody. So just a good thing to remember too is if you're new in town, your voter registration doesn't move with you. So just be sure if you are a new resident to check. You can call us, or you can even look on our website, and there's a link to the Secretary of State's website that will tell you if you're registered to vote. If you need to change party, because this is a primary, so if you are registered in, there's 3 choices for ballots, a Libertarian, Democrat, or Republican. If you are registered in any of those parties, that's the only ballot that you will receive, whether it's in person or if you've requested it by mail. If you wanted to change your party and be able to choose a different ballot, then again, that's August 24th would be the last day for that. We will also have a couple of different ways that you can vote. One of them would be on September 3rd. That's the actual primary date. Polls will be open from 7 a.m. until 8 p.m. All voting is done at the high school in the gymnasium. It will be a school day, so just keep that in mind. Parking will be in front of the location to go into the polling place, and that is in the parking lot where recreation and the preschool is. We will have early voting in person. That is going to begin on Saturday. That will be at the Westwood Police Station in the Gillette Meeting Room. The hours are on Saturday. If you want to make note of this, voters out there, Saturday for August 24th from 10 a.m. until 5 p.m. Sunday, there will be no early voting. On Monday, 8 a.m. until 4:30 p.m. That's August 26th. Tuesday, August 27th will be 8 a.m. until 7 p.m. It's really, we're open during the state has the law with the state is that you're open during your normal business hours, but we just felt that we're not open in the evening anymore, but we would have an evening session where anybody, that's working or is not available on the weekends can make it. Wednesday, we will be open with August 28th from 8 a.m. until 4:30 p.m. Thursday, August 29th from 8 a.m. until 4:30 p.m. And the last day to vote early in person is Friday, August 30th from 8 a.m. until 1 p.m. Now, there's also another way that you can vote if you don't want to go to early voting or to the polling place. You can vote by mail. All applications must be received by August 26th at 5 p.m. Now, we've already mailed out 3,193 ballots. And that's about 26% of our voters. We've received back 879 ballots. So if I can urge people, if you've received a ballot by mail, please make every effort to send it back. You can either send it back by mail. It's postage paid. You can drop it off at the town clerk's office. You can come in and say hello, or you can put your ballot in the mailbox in front of the police station. That's a secure drop ballot box. We have received probably about 32 of the ballots back that we've had to reject because people have not signed the envelope. So for, again, anybody that's watching out there, this is the envelope that you'll have. I don't know if anybody can see that.
Just hold it up a little bit, Dottie.
I think let me unblur my background.
Yeah, I was gonna say unblur your background. You should be good.
Okay. Oops. Okay. So I don't know if you can see that, but
Perfect.
when you get the envelope, there's a little red arrow here and it says sign here. So just make sure that you sign it. And also please do not let anyone else sign it. If it's a if you have a child that's gone to college and they left their envelope behind, please don't have anybody but the voter sign it, because we do, again, it's another election law. We have to check the signature on every single envelope that comes back with the signature on the application. And if the signatures don't match, we do have to reject them. And we would let you know about that. So far, so good. And I think that's about it. I think I've covered everything. I don't know if anybody has any questions for me. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to the town clerk's office. And we hope that we have either, we hope we have a good turnout for early voting in person and on election day. So thank you all.
Madam Clerk, I just have a point of clarification.
Sure.
And I might have misheard you, so blame me. But in terms of when I think the mail-in ballots need to be, when do you need to receive, or the mail-in requests?
Thank you. That's a good point. The actual ballot. So the actual, if you're going to apply, the last day for you to apply is August 26th. That's for the ballot to be mailed to you.
What about registering the vote? Is it August 24th?
August 24th. Yes.
So if someone wants to register by mail, and can they send it as long as it's postmarked on the 24th?
Yes, yes. There's a difference though with the application. If they were just sending the application, that has to be received. The postmark does not count on that. It has to be received. And also the ballots that you are sending back after you voted, they have to be either, again, we have to receive it by mail, or it has to be hand delivered. Please don't bring them to the polling location on election day, because they have to be processed here, but they have to be received by the close of polls on election day. That's 8 p.m. on September 3rd.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I started to say, Dottie, what a thorough and speedy presentation. Thank you very much. Rob,
You're
Mary,
welcome.
you guys have any questions or comments?
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Excuse me.
You're welcome. Have a great day. Good night.
Thanks, Dottie. All right.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair. I think there's one item.
The request
from the Select Board Reserve.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, don't.
We need a motion.
You need a motion to vote and sign and post the warrant for the September 3rd state primary.
I'm sorry. Thank you. Anyone want to make a motion for that?
I've got it. I move that the select board sign and post the September 3rd, 2024 state primary election warrant, and for the warrant to be posted by the constables throughout the town and online on the town website.
Second that.
Second. Roll call. Mary Ann?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Thank you, Pat.
And Tish, I know you need signatures by August 26th. Is that right? Wet signatures. Okay.
Yes, wet signatures, and I'll probably leave it in Dottie's office. So for you to sign, if that is easier for you.
Thanks, Tish. Thanks, Mary Ann. All right. Mea culpa, I skipped over the reserve fund transfer for Ellis Strategies. This is to authorize a reserve fund transfer of $25,000 for public relations work to be performed by Ellis Strategies. Molly, I think you're going to present this, is that correct?
Yes. So in FY24, the town employed Ellis Strategies to perform public relations work for the town. So that included external communications, identifying opportunities for the story. They're a provider helping us coordinate both the wire and the word. Due to budget constraints, we had to cut the contract for FY25 in order to balance the budget. And so we were not able to renew the contract for this year. Separately from that, the FS1 working group has come forward saying we really think we need a public relations firm to do PR firm for the fire station project for it to have its greatest success rate. I interviewed 3 different PR firms over the summer, and Ellis Strategies came back with the best product and at the best price. So at this point, we are looking to renew the contract with Ellis Strategy primarily to focus on FS1. I would say, 80+% of their work would be fire station related, but have them on retainer in case there were any other PR firm related issues that were to come up over the course of FY25 that they would be able to assist us with.
Thank you, Molly. Rob, Marion, any questions?
No.
No questions. I'll just make the comment that given the safety issues that have been well discussed relative to the fire station, I think this is money well spent to make sure that we are adequately advising residents.
Good point. Thank you, Marion. All right. Would anyone like to make a motion?
I will. And please excuse my voice. I'm sorry. I move that the select board authorize a reserve fund transfer of $25,000 for public relations work to be performed by Ellis Strategies.
I'll second that.
Any discussion on the motion? Marianne?
I vote aye.
Rob?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Motion carries. That brings us down to fall meeting discussion.
Yes.
Chris, I take it you're going to lead on this?
Yes, I will, Mr. Chair. And if the board would indulge me, I did have one oversight on the town administrator update. I know the board's aware of this, but just to let the public know that the Government Finance Officers Association, GFOA, has awarded a Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting to the town of Westwood for its annual comprehensive financial report for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2023. Forgive me for missing that during the town administrator update. This is a significant example of the work that the finance team and the community has done to receive this award. So I just certainly want to thank everyone involved, and especially members of our finance team for all of their work.
And I'd like to congratulate Stephanie and her team. Thank you, Stephanie, for your leadership and your outstanding work. This is a very important award for the town.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I have a great team, and the town has received this award for a number of years, and I'm just happy to report that it's continuing on. A lot of work goes into it, and it's just a great reflection on the town and all the financial policies that have been put in place over the years.
Congratulations. Well done.
Great team with great leadership. Congratulations. All right, Chris.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As far as the fall town meeting, as the board is aware, and just to remind those, pursuant to the charter, the select board, no later than September 15th of every year, need to make a decision whether or not to have a fall annual town meeting. Although we're not asking the board to vote on that at this meeting, we are asking that we wanted to bring this up for a discussion piece, mainly because at this time, there is nothing that's been brought to my attention. I've spoken to the chair. There's nothing that has been brought to his attention, at least as of our last conversation, that would may warrant a fall town annual meeting, but wanted to also give the board and everyone else an opportunity if something were to come up between now and your next meeting. So your next meeting is on September 9th, but this is just for the board to just have the conversation. If there is anything out there that the board's aware of, please feel free to give me a call, or if any other boards have anything that is time sensitive that would require a fall annual town meeting. But at this time, I have none.
Good move, Chris. Good move. Rob, Marianne, any thoughts?
Nope.
No,
So-
thank you, Chris.
Okay, discussion item only, and we'll discuss that on the 9th if necessary. 2020, next item is 2025 annual town meeting discussion, moving the date. Select board to hear presentation on moving the date for 2025 annual town meeting. Attending is Molly Fitzpatrick, Assistant Town Administrator and HR Director. Molly, it's yours.
Hello again. I am going to share my screen again. So as I think everyone knows, town meeting date is set by the charter, right? It's the first Monday in May. And as I'm sure most of you are also aware, at town meeting, when the FS1 project was being discussed back in January, the goal of the project was to go to a future town meeting with bid in hand. So we would have the actual construction price of the fire station project that the town meeting would be able to vote with. So having that goal in mind, the working group worked through dozens plus different options of how to schedule both the vote at town meeting and a town election in order to do a debt exclusion override. The project needs to have both happen. So we walked through, 12, 13, 14 different options and have come down to the top 3 options, which I'm going to present for you tonight. Something to keep in mind are the 5 or 6 things on this slide. There are a lot of different time constraints, both set in the charter or the bylaw, or in some cases town mass general law. So trying to thread the needle has been very difficult in this case. So if you're patient with us, we will try to explain it. So option 1 is leaving annual town meeting alone. It would happen on May 5th, and we would host a special election in June. So the pro of that is it's the way we've always done things, right? We're not moving annual town meeting. There's not a special one. Everyone's accustomed to it. The problem is the very compressed timeline. There's only 10 days between when we're expecting bid opening on April 24th, 2025, and the town meeting on May 5th. We just don't think that there would be adequate time for the town to really present on what that final number is between the bid opening and town meeting. FinCom would also be making a recommendation based on a dollar not to exceed number, so not a firm dollar figure. And after having conversations with both the chair and the vice chair, that is not something that they are particularly comfortable with. So we want to be able to keep that in mind as well. So that's option 1. Option 2 is we hold a special town meeting in the beginning of June. I think I have it squared here as June 2nd, and then a special election the week after. So in this example, the annual town meeting remains on May 5th. All of the preparation that goes into that happens. In addition to that, we would be holding an additional special town meeting. So there would be an additional FinCom hearing, additional publications in order to get us to that goal. The pro of that plan is that it's the maximum amount of time between the bid opening or bid close, whichever way you want to say it, and special town meeting. There's a lot of time to be able to advertise what the number is. The cons are obviously cost related, both in terms of the monetary cost of putting on a special election, but also the workload in terms of the clerk's office and everyone putting that together. And getting people to turn out for a second town meeting, especially close to the end of the school year, is something that the working group had some concerns about. So that brings us here today to what we want to talk about, which is option 3 and moving annual town meeting. So as I said, the charter speaks that town meeting shall be on the first Monday in May. There is state law that states that the select board can move that date within 30 days. So, we have the authority to do this, and that a special election would then be held at the beginning of June. The pro is that it's still giving us quite a bit of time between the bid close and town meeting. It's about 2 weeks that we would be pushing this back. FinCom would be able to have its own hearing on what the actual number would be. When the printing goes out, it will have the actual dollar amount. We're not sort of saying, we think it's going to be X dollar amount. We would know the real dollar amount well before town meeting. And then, and I'm still working, additional costs associated with the project. No, you cannot talk to me right now. So those are the 3 options that I want to talk
Molly,
about.
before you stop sharing your
You want me to
screen,
stop sharing screen? Yeah, go ahead.
so can you go back to the important things to consider at the very beginning?
Oh, of course. You need to talk.
Thank
Yep.
you. And when does FinCom relative to annual town meeting need to issue the book? 30 days, correct? Yes, your first bullet, your first paragraph.
So the FinCom must distribute at least 30 days prior to business So that's the summary page. That's not the actual book. So FinCom puts out two different documents, one being, these are the warrant articles that are going to be coming up. That's 30 days before. The book that has the more of the detail and the documentation of their vote, that's what has to be in houses 7 days before. So when the summary page went out, it would still say, Fire Station 1 project TBD on what the cost is going to be. But when the actual recommendation goes to households, it would have, this is what the firm dollar amount is going to be.
Gotcha. So when you jump, I mean, it sounded like you were leaning towards recommending option 3.
Yeah. So we've met with not both, that we've met with the finance team, the town clerk, the town moderator, the town clerk, the FinCom chair and vice chair. Everybody is in agreement that option 3 is the way to go to ensure the most likelihood of the project's success.
And the time frame from bid opening to 30 days prior allows for the summary of that article?
It will allow the summary of the article. So the summary 30 days before April 24th will be, no, I'm sorry, 30 days before May 19th will be April 19th. We will not have the bids by then. So when the summary goes out saying, this is the summary of what the article will say, is there is going to be an article about FS1. It will cost roughly $40 million. And then later, when the actual book goes out, it will say, this is the warrant article. It's about FS1 and it's going to cost $39.867 million. So the specificity comes with the second item, not with the first item.
Okay, thank you.
There was no model we could come up with where we would have the bid in hand for this number.
Thank you.
Mary Ann, any questions?
I don't have a question. I just want to comment that I think what is most important in this consideration is making sure that our system of vetting articles is maximized. And that means with respect to FinCom. So I'm very glad to hear that conversations have been held with the chair and vice chair of FinCom and that they are comfortable with the third option. Is that right, Molly? Am I stating?
It would be. So essentially what would happen is that the FinCom public hearings would happen as usual in March, talking about the budget and any other items that would come up. They would then continue their hearing until, a tentative date being April 28th, which is when they would have a meeting specifically on FS1 with bid in hand and vote on that particular item on that particular day. So they were very comfortable with that.
Yeah, I think that's what is most important so that we can be assured that the vetting has been done, that residents have had a real opportunity to understand what the article is about. So I am personally in favor of option 3 as well.
I'd add to that, Mary Ann, that not only does it allow us the proper time for vetting and keep us in compliance with all of our other time constraints from bylaws and town charter and mass general law, but it also saves us the expense of an additional special town meeting. Steph, what does that typically run?
An additional special town meeting, so that would be printing a whole other, what we call the FinCom book, so another town meeting book. Just the setup costs, staff, I'd say it's around, a big guess, but maybe 20,000 if I had to guess, which is a significant cost.
Thank you, Steph.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Sure.
Also communicated with the school superintendent regarding the venue. And one of the things that we asked, it was also the gymnasium and the auditorium, if he could reserve the space for both. Because we're anticipating a large turnout. So if that's the case and the board is inclined, then we would look to go with the gymnasium. But if not, then we would have the auditorium as the backup.
Good point. Thank you, Chris. Mary Ann and Rob, you guys know this, but I said a number of times in the past month or so, especially to Chris and to Molly, that I had no idea how exquisitely sensitive and careful we have to be with threading the needle to make sure we dot the I's and cross the T's. Molly gave an excellent presentation to that meeting. I just want to re-emphasize that the FinCom chair and vice chair were there, and Dottie was there. It was very, very helpful. They were, the chair, vice chair, they were both very careful, deliberate, and gave it a lot of careful thought, and they concurred as well with the option that Molly put on the table. So Molly did a great job on that. Great job. And it was, I think we started with a dozen options and we finally culled it down, but strong work. So good. Any other questions or comments?
No, thank you for all the work on this.
All right, and we will discuss this further at our September 9th meeting and vote the recommendation at the September 9th meeting. Thanks, Molly. Thanks to your assistant. Okay, let me see how I'm doing here. I think we're down to acceptance of a grant award, Municipal Local Cybersecurity Grant. And Stephanie, I'm guessing you're here for that. Would you like to take it away?
This is for the select board to accept a municipal local cybersecurity grant in the amount of $80,050. It's awarded to the IT department under a municipal local cybersecurity grant program from the state. This was something that there was almost $7 million worth of federal grant support for cybersecurity initiatives. And this is something our IT department would be looking to apply to their cybersecurity efforts and strengthen the efforts that they already have in place.
I'm sorry, Stephanie. Thank you, Chris, for explaining that. Rob and Mary Ann, any questions or comments?
No questions. Always great to accept money.
Absolutely. Happy to make a motion, Joe.
Thank you very much.
I move that the select board accept the $80,050 FY24 Municipal Local Cybersecurity Grant as awarded to the town of Westwood and the IT department.
Second that.
Any discussion on the motion? Mary Ann?
Vote aye.
Rob?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Thank you, Chris. That brings us down to we have a grant award. Oh, it's right up your alley, Rob. We're accepting more money.
Mr. Chair, this is for the select board to accept student awareness of fire education, abbreviated S.A.F.E, and senior SAFE grants in the amount of two separate amounts, but one is in $5,700. The other one is $2,400. In the past, the fire department has used the SAFE funding to meet with students at various schools, to hold instructions at the fire station, to go over friendly matters with the firefighters regarding stop, drop, and roll techniques. Funding was also used to provide seniors with smoke detectors and/or battery replacements for their homes.
Thank you, Chris. Mary Ann, Rob, any questions?
No questions.
Mary Ann, we'd like to make the motions. Your voice hanging in there?
It is, yes.
Great.
I hereby move that the select board accept the FY24 SAFE grant of $5,700 and the senior SAFE grant of $2,400 as awarded to the fire department.
And I will second that.
Any discussion on the motion? Mary Ann?
I vote aye.
Rob?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Motion carries. All right, next we have our Westwood Media Center transfer of funds.
Joe, I'm going to recuse myself from this one. Tish, if you wouldn't mind just texting me, please. Thank you.
I was going to offer to read this one for you anyway, even if you stayed, Mary Ann.
You're a good man, Rob. I'm happy her voice is hanging in there. She sounds like she's hurting.
Yeah.
Let's see. So, Chris, are you presenting this, or do you want me to just read this?
I'm happy to present, but I thought, Rob, did you say you were gonna read the motion? Is
I'll
that
take it. Yeah, as the board is aware, the town negotiated payments from Comcast and the license agreements for funds to be received by the town and transferred to Westwood Media Center, the town's local access television channel. Per the agreement between the town and WMC, the town agreed to transfer these funds pursuant to Section 8, subsection 2 of the Westwood Media Center agreement within 30 days of their receipt. So the following outline is the funds that will be transferred. From Comcast, an amount of $43,640.96, an additional amount of $4,528.61. Then from Verizon, $44,200, and an additional amount from Verizon of $39,639.68. The sum total of which totals to $132,009.25. Any questions from anyone?
For me.
All right, I make the motion that the select board approve the transfer of $48,169.57 from Comcast, as well as $83,839.68 from Verizon, totaling $132,009.25 to Westwood Media Center per the license agreements and the Westwood Media Center agreement signed by the select board.
I'll second that motion out of necessity. Rob?
I vote aye.
I vote aye as well. Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, point of order, you have a Q&A about it.
Okay, thanks, Pat.
I will bring Mary Ann in back.
Thank you. So the question is from Kathy Wallace, 283 Farm Lane. Is $20,000 enough for FS1 PR campaign? How was that number determined? What will be included in the campaign? Will this include the creation of a dedicated webpage? Chris, do you want to take a shot at that? Would you like me to answer?
I'm happy to respond if you'd like to add something on afterwards, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
So the amount that was requested was 25,000, not 20,000. And that came through the discussions and the interviews that Molly had with the 3 different firms. This was also an amount that we did have last year with Ellis Strategies for the PR work. So we are fairly confident that the 25,000 would be sufficient for what we're looking to do with the campaign. What type of information they'll be helping with presentations. So the informational sessions that we're going to have, I think the first one will be after the abutters meeting. The first one will be September 16th. So they'll be helping with the presentations. They'll be helping with different types of notifications and information and outreach that'll be going out to the community to provide them with updates. As far as the website has been worked on. We are working with our website provider for some additional technical support, and where our plan is to go live with that as soon as the technical support is completed with the work. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Molly mentioned that we're looking to go live in September with that new website page for the fire station project. Until that time, we will have updates regarding the fire station project on the current website. And then we will transfer that information over once we have that new website and we go live with that.
Thank you, Chris. And if my recollection is correct, Chris, when you and I discussed this, I said, well, if we do need additional funds, then the select board would be able to discuss this and appropriate funds as necessary out of the select board reserve. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Excellent. Okay. Anything else on that? Welcome back, Mary Ann.
Thank you.
Let's move on to appointments and reappointments on boards and committees. The board continues to have the annual process of appointments and reappointments for the various boards and committees. The board will be asked to continue the appointment process over the next few weeks. So we have the following appointments: Housing Partnership Fair Housing Committee, 1 member; Council on Aging, 2 members; Election Officer, 1 candidate; Registrar of Voters, 1 candidate. Chris, do you want to comment on this?
Sorry, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, so it's through the process that we've used. We've met with these individuals along with representation from each of those bodies. And then in some cases, I believe, Mr. Chair, you've been part of those discussions with those candidates. And it is with the support from that process that we would recommend these individuals to the board at this time for appointment, or for your consideration for appointment.
All right, Rob, would you, I'm sorry, Mary Ann, would you like to make this motion?
Mr. Chair, may I suggest for 2 reasons that my colleague, Mr. Gotti, handle this one. I'm going to recuse myself from the last one, and I'm not sure my voice will hold out for the others. So, Rob, would you mind?
Certainly. So for the Housing Partnership Fair Housing, we have Matthew Giordano, who submitted a resume and statement of interest. He has a master's in city planning and a Bachelor of Science in environmental engineering, and he expressed an interest in the affordable housing and need to keep developments in compliance. He met with Chris, Amanda, and they are recommending him for appointment. Just as a note, he is also the son of planning board member Phil Giordano, and Phil has been appointed by the select board to serve on the Housing Partnership Fair Housing Committee as the planning board representative. Just so Phil took it with town council and reached out to the state ethics committee concerning any potential conflict of interest in serving on the committee with his family member. State ethics determined there was no conflict to date, but recommended completing section 23B3 disclosure forms and submitting it to the town clerk, which I believe Mr. Giordano, Phil Giordano of the planning board, has already done and submitted to Dottie. With respect to the Council on Aging, when the 2 openings with terms due to the ones that are expiring, we have 2 new applications, one from Marjorie Aramo and the other from Jesse Turbane. Ms. Aramo is a registered nurse and would like to serve on the COA board. And Ms. Turbane has a diverse volunteer history and serves the fill-in support staff for the COA at the front desk, so is very familiar with the COA. Our director of the Council on Aging, Lena Narina DeRosa, Chris Coleman, and Joe Prevotera all unanimously recommend these 2 for appointment. And finally, for the Registrar of Voters and an election officer, we're being asked to appoint Michael Foley as an election officer with a term to expire on the 30th of June 25, and to reappoint John Cummings as a Registrar of Voter with a term to end on June 30th of 2027. So before I make a motion, are there any questions with respect to any of those?
Mr. Gotti, if I may?
Sure.
I would recommend you make a motion to incorporate all but the registrar to allow Ms. LeBlanc to recuse herself from that vote.
Thank you very much. I will do so. So I make a motion for the select board to take the following appointment actions. Matthew Giordano as a member of the Housing Partnership Fair Housing Committee for a 1-year term to end on June 30th, 2025. That we appoint Marjorie Aramo and Jesse Turbane as members of the Council on Aging, each for a 3-year term to end on June 30th, 2027. And that we appoint Michael Foley as an election officer for a 1-year term to end on June 30th, 2025.
Second that.
Any discussion on the motion? Mary Ann?
I vote aye.
Rob?
Aye.
I vote aye as well.
And then I would make another motion that we, the select board, reappoint John Cummings as Registrar of Voters for a 3-year term to end on June 30th, 2027.
I'll second that motion. Rob?
Aye.
I vote aye out of necessity. Tish, if you can invite Ms. Mary Ann back, that'd be great. Thank you, Rob. Well done.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rob.
Next, we're down to select board liaison reports. Rob, any updates from your end?
No, I just I'll talk about a couple things with the Long Range Financial Planning Committee. We held a meeting about a week or two ago where we began sort of understanding the process that we're going to go through and researching the request that was made by the Select Board of the Long Range Financial Planning Committee with respect to the transfer fee. So we are beginning to dole out that research to various members of the committee, and we'll be taking that up as we get into later meetings in the fourth quarter. School Building Committee, as you can see, as you drive by, things are moving along quite well. They're getting ready to start laying sod, I believe, in the coming weeks, so that there are fields. And I have not had recent interaction with the Westwood Environmental Action Committee, which is my third and final liaison. So
thank you, Rob. Excellent. Marianne, are you up to a brief report?
I am. But briefly, with respect to the Commission on Disability, I want to report that they met last week and they have had a transition in leadership. Mary Sethna was elected as the new chair and Missy O'Regan as the new vice chair, with thanks to outgoing chair Rania Kelly. Also, I want to report that the COD is going to be vetting the ADA self-assessment over the next few months with a view toward bringing that to us once they've completed that work. So stay tuned on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Marianne. And I'll report that on the Dog Leash Committee, we held a meeting on July 25th. It was well attended. I'd say about 25 people. Tish was a tremendous help with this. Basically, it was a meet and greet introductions. I gave a brief overview of some of our goals. Got some good input from people. We're still gathering information. Town Council's been very helpful. And we're looking at some grant opportunities for the off-leash dog park. As far as the housing partnership goes, Amanda is just outstanding, doing a great job with that. Mike McCusker held we had a meeting recently. We looked at some of our responsibilities for the comprehensive plan. Plus, we reviewed a survey that Amanda has put together for the tenants and for some other folks as well. And some great dialogue on that. And it was very enlightening. Enjoyed it very much. And that's it for my committee reports.
Joe, could I add one thing? I'm sorry.
Sure.
I forgot regarding Canton Street Working Group. I just wanted to report that the smaller working group of the group is scheduled to have a meeting this upcoming Thursday at 10 a.m. Tish, that's on Zoom, correct?
That's correct, at 10 a.m. via Zoom.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We had been working to try to get the full working group together in August. Poor Tish, went through so many dates and doodle polls. We just weren't able to make it work. Just so many folks on vacation. So we're looking now to do that in September.
Thanks, Marianne. We went through the same pain, and kudos to Tish to help us with picking a date for the dog park. I didn't realize how challenging it is in the summertime, but Tish does a great job with it. Thank you, Marianne. That brings us up to minutes. Regular meeting minutes of June 24th and July 10th. Any discussion on those? All right, anyone want to make a motion? Marianne, you might be on mute.
No, we can't hear you. We lost you.
I know what to say.
There you go. Now you're back.
There you go. Your voice is back.
Okay. I'm terribly sorry. I hereby move that we approve the minutes of our June 24, 2024 meeting as written.
Second.
Mary Ann,
Uh, yes, aye.
Rob,
I vote aye.
I vote aye as well. Mary Ann,
I hereby move that we approve the regular meeting minutes for our July 10, 2024 meeting as written.
Second.
Mary Ann,
Aye.
Rob,
Aye.
I vote aye as well. All right, we don't have any questions that I see. Pat, I think we can wrap this up. The select board will now be going into executive session to discuss one issue pursuant to general laws, chapter 30A, section 21A, 3, to discuss strategy with respect to potential litigation involving the property at 665 Clever Tree Street, a discussion of which would have detrimental effects on the position of the governing body if the discussion were held in open session. The board will not be returning to open session. Anyone like to make a motion?
Before we do that, Joe, would
Yep.
you like to advise the public as to the time and date and location of our next meeting?
Sure. As soon as I get my calendar.
I believe it's Monday, September 9th at 6 p.m. via Zoom.
I couldn't have said it better, Rob. Thank you.
With
Go ahead.
that, I hereby move that the select board move into executive session for the aforementioned reason.
I will second that motion.
Mary Ann,
Aye.
Rob,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. Thank you all very much.
Good night, everyone.
Everybody.
Thank you.